Good morning, students. In previous two sessions, we have discussed about Biot-Savart's law. Then we derived the expressions for magnetic field at the center and at a point on the axis of a circular current carrying conductor. In today's session, we are going to discuss about some of the numerical questions related to the magnetic field of circular current carrying conductor. So let us just take them up one by one. Initially, we are going to just recall what we have learned so far and what formulae we will be needing for solving the numerical questions. Students, we have to be very careful that magnetic field strength is a vector quantity. So, while we solve the numerical question, we don't only need the mathematical formula, but at many places we will also need to find out the direction so that we can find out the resultant magnetic field. So, we are going to recall both the things, that is the formula to calculate the magnitude as well as the rules to find out the direction of magnetic field. So let us first of all discuss about the strength of the magnetic field. Two formulae we have learnt. One is to find the magnetic field at the center, and the formula is given as this. Students, this formula is for a single turn coil. You can simplify it if you wish to. You can just cancel out this pi terms and two term here. You can keep it as it is also. It's your choice how you want to learn it. But the point is, this formula is applicable for a single turn coil, and if we have multiple turns, students, all the turns will have magnetic field in the same direction. Therefore, if we have n number of turns, the magnetic field simply will get added up for all the turns, and the resultant field will become n times of the field of the single turn. So in case if I'm having 10 turns, I simply need to multiply this expression with 10, and if I have 100 turns, I have to multiply this expression with 100. So I simply need to multiply it with n if there are multiple turns given. Second expression we had learned, that was for the magnetic field at a point on the axis, and the expression required will be as we have already calculated this formula. Again, for this expression, if it is a single turn, then this formula will apply, and if it is containing n number of turns, we simply need to multiply it with n. Okay, now let's move on to the direction of the field. Students, for the direction of the magnetic field, one general rule we have, that is the right hand thumb rule, that will apply to all the shapes of the current carrying conductors. But we have to consider only one small part of that, one small straight part of that conductor to find out the direction of field. And that rule states like this: the right hand thumb rule. Here we hold the current carrying conductor. That straight conductor could be a complete straight conductor throughout, or may also be one small part of any other curved conductor. When we hold that part in a right hand, so that our thumb should be in the direction of current. So here the current should be in the same direction as that of our thumb. Then the direction of the curls of our hand, that will give us the direction of magnetic field lines. So here the magnetic field lines are in the plane perpendicular to the conductor, and there will be multiple such lines, and to find the direction of field at a given point, we will have to draw the tangent. So here in this case, the tangent will be drawn this way and so on. So the field will be in the plane perpendicular to the conductor. So this is how we can use the right hand thumb rule to find out the direction of field. And the second rule, which is particularly meant for closed loops, that also we are going to discuss now. That is known as the right hand palm rule, and at many places it is referred to as simply right hand rule. So what is that right hand rule? Students, here the directions of current and field will be reversed. We'll have to use the right hand only. Let us see what is the difference. So students, here if we have a closed loop like a circle, then we have to curl the fingers of our hand in the direction of current. Now you see this thing here. Here in the right hand thumb rule, the thumb was in the direction of current and the fingers were telling you the direction of field lines. Here it is the reverse. Here your fingers are in the direction of current. So this is the direction of current. So current will be represented by the curl of fingers of the right hand. In that case, the direction of thumb will give you the direction of magnetic field. Now students, what you have to be careful about, this rule is a specific rule. Number one, it is applicable only on the closed loops. Number two, it will give you the direction of field only in the interior of the loop, because we know the direction of field for any current carrying conductor keeps on changing. So if we are getting the direction in terms of direction of thumb, that is only single direction. Therefore, this rule is only specific, it is only applicable for the situation when we are considering the field only in the interior portion, particularly at the center. See students, suppose if this is a loop, then while using the right hand palm rule, we'll get to know the direction of field, but that is the field only at this point. However, for all the points in the interior of this loop, this rule will apply as long as the point is in the plane of the loop. But we generally use it to find out the direction of field at the center of the loop. So it is only specific rule. It will not be applicable if we have to find the direction at a point which is outside the loop, or if it is not in the plane of loop, lying above it or below it, then this rule will not be applicable. It will be applicable only for the center of the loop. However, it will also be applicable for the points which lie on the axis of the loop. Loop may be circular, may be triangular, may be rectangular, or any other closed shape, but this rule is applicable for the points lying at the center as well as on the axis. So you need to be careful when to apply this rule and when not to apply this rule. This rule is more handy to be used, however, it is specifically used in certain situations. All right, so let's now move on to the questions. The first question is, a circular coil of wire consisting of 100 turns, each of radius this, carries a current of this much. What is the magnitude of the field at the center of the coil? So it's a quite simple question. We'll have to make use of this formula as we have already learnt. So students, we need to simply substitute the values and simplify it. The only conversion that we will have to do is, we are given the value of radius in terms of centimeter, which is not the SI unit. So let us see what all we are given. We are given n is equal to 100. Then we are given r, here the radius we have taken to be small a, that is given to be 8 centimeters. So that will be 8 into 10 minus 2 meter. And the current is given to be 0.40 ampere. So this is all that we have been given. So we need to simply substitute the values in the expression for magnetic field, and we get to know what is the answer. So B will be equal to mu naught upon 4 pi, we know it is 10 raised to power minus 7 into 2 pi. Pi I am substituting is 3.14 into number of turns, which are 100 in this case, into current, which is given to be 0.40, divided by the radius, which is given to be 8 into 10 minus 2. Now students, what we can do is we can just separate the powers of 10 on one side and the remaining terms on the other side. So this will turn out to be 2 into 3.14 into this term also I'm going to write as 4 into 10 minus 1 into 10 minus 1. So remaining powers are minus 7 is also there. There from this 100 a power 2 will come, and from the denominator another power 2 will come. So this is what we have about the powers of 10, and the remaining thing we have in the denominator is 8. Now students, this 2, 4 and 8, these three terms will get cancelled out in numerator and denominator, and what all I am left with, that is 3.14 into 10 raised to power. So here it is minus 8 and this is plus 4. So the power of 10 comes out to be 10 raised to power minus 4. SI unit of magnetic field strength is Tesla. So my answer will turn out to be in Tesla. So this is my final answer for this question. Now let's move on to second question. As shown in figure, a cell is connected across 2 points A and B of the uniform circular conductor. Prove the magnetic field at its center will be 0. Now see students, here there are two parts of the conductor across points A and B, and as you can clearly see, points A and B, they directly connect with the positive and negative terminal of the cell. Therefore the conductors ADB and ACB, these two parts will be in parallel with each other. They will have the same value of potential difference across them. Because their lengths are not equal and the conductor is given to be uniform, therefore the current through each one of them will not be same. So what we need to recognize is, while we consider this part of the conductor and we are given the central angle is given to be 90 degree. So clearly we know this length of the conductor, this smaller part will be 1/4 of the total length of the wire, and the remaining part will be 3/4 of the length. So this we have learnt that one part has got a longer length as compared to remaining part, therefore its resistance will also be larger. We know resistance is rho L upon A. So resistance will be directly proportional to length. That means to say, if I consider the resistance of this part of the wire to be R, then resistance of the remaining part will be 3 times that resistance. So that is what we have learned. Students, why we are trying to find out the value of resistance? Because we want to know what is the amount of current flowing through each part. Symbolically, it is given to be I1 and I2, but unless or until I know what is the value of resistance, I will not be able to calculate the current. Now I also know that points A and B, they are at the same potential difference. Therefore, the potential difference across ADB as well ACB will be same. Now the voltage is same, and we know that V is equal to IR. Now both the parts have got same value of potential difference. So their current will be in the inverse ratio of their resistance. Whichever part will have smaller resistance, that part will have higher value of current, and it will be in the inverse ratio of their resistances. Therefore, if the part ADB, the resistance of part ADB, that is 3 times the resistance of the remaining part, that is ACB. Therefore, current through ADB, which we have assumed to be I2, will be 1/3 of the current through ACB, that is I1. So this is what we have learned, that current flowing through this longer part will be small as compared to the remaining part. So this is what we have learned. So the value of current we have found now. Now second part is, now we have to find out the magnetic field due to each part. Let me suppose the radius of this circular part is say A. Then how do I go? I assume the magnetic field due to the smaller part to be B1. That will be equal to mu naught upon 4 pi. Students, when we have done the magnetic field at the center of the circular loop, there I have told you, if we have a complete circle, then we use 2 pi in the numerator, and if we have an incomplete circle, for the complete circle, the formula was B is equal to mu naught upon 4 pi 2 pi I upon radius. So 2 pi will be used if we have a complete circle, and if the circle is incomplete, then whatever is the remaining angle there inside, that angle we can use instead of 2 pi. So here for this smaller part, the remaining angle at the center of the circular portion, that angle is equal to pi by 2, and angle we have to use in radian here. So instead of 2 pi, I will use pi by 2, and here current is I1 divided by radius, which I have assumed to be A. And for the remaining portion, the magnetic field will be equal to mu naught upon 4 pi. And for the remaining portion, I know the angle is 270 degree or 3 pi by 2. So angle will be 3 pi by 2 into current, that is I2 divided by A. Now what we already know, that I2 is equal to 1/3 of I1. So if I substitute this value here, mu naught upon 4 pi 3 pi by 2 into I naught, which is 1/3 of I1 upon A. So if I simplify this one, sorry, it is 1/3. So if I simplify this one, then 3 and 3 in the numerator and denominator, they will get cancelled out. And now if I look at the value of B1, then I get to know that B2 is also equal to B1. So from this, I have learned that B2 is equal to B1. So students, whatever may be the angle which is subtended here, it is given to be 90 for the sake of simplicity. Even if it was not 90, you will always see in whatever way the value of resistance has decreased or current has increased, by the same proportion the angle would have changed, and under all situation both the parts will get to will give you the same value of magnetic field strength. So here also we have found that both the parts have got the same value of magnetic field. Now the only point that we are left with, then that is when these two magnetic fields will get added up, then what will be the resultant. So we can make use of right hand palm rule to find out the direction of field. Students, for the part ACB, when I curl the fingers of my right hand in the direction of current, my magnetic field turns out to be in the perpendicular outward direction. And for the part ADB, if I curl the fingers of my right hand, then the thumb goes in the inward direction, that is perpendicular inward. So here B1 is in the perpendicular outward direction, so this one is in the perpendicular outward direction, and B2 is in the perpendicular inward direction, that is represented by cross. Now what I am left with, that B1 and B2 are equal in magnitude and they are opposite in direction, and clearly the resultant field, the net value of field will be equal to, whenever we have two vectors which are collinear and anti-parallel, we know the resultant is given by subtraction of both. Basically it is larger minus smaller, but if both of them are equal, then this value will simply turn out to be 0. So this is what was the question, that we had to prove the magnetic field at the center is 0, and that we have proven that magnetic field will turn out to be 0. Students, again I'm repeating, the angle was given to be 90. Even if it was 60, even if it was any other angle, my answer will always turn out to be 0 for this given situation, whenever the cell or battery is connected across any two points of the given circular conductor. All right, now let's move on to next question. Students, next question is, consider a circuit as shown where APB and AQB are the semicircles. What will be the magnetic field at center C of the circular loop? Now students, again the situation is same. Whenever I'm given 2 points A and B across which I have to find anything, across which the current is made to flow, then what do I assume? I always assume that some cell has been connected across these 2 points. So when cell has been connected across these 2 points, then these 2 points on the circular conductor, they come out to be at the same potential difference. Now as those two parts APB and ACB are given to be semicircles, therefore their lengths will be equal, their resistance will be equal, and as a result the current will be equally divided in both the parts. So here this part as well as this part, they have got the same amount of current. Therefore each semicircle will have the same value of magnetic field. However, due to their different orientation, the direction of field will be in the opposite alignments. One field will be in perpendicular outward direction, other will be in perpendicular inward direction. The resultant will turn out to be 0, just like as we have seen in the previous case. So you will be able to easily solve this question. So I'm leaving this for you only. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, now there are two identical circular loops which are marked as 1 and 2. They are carrying equal currents and are placed with their geometrical axes perpendicular to each other as shown. Find the magnitude and direction of net field produced at point O. Now students, see this thing, the point O, which is a point of observation, it is not given to be at the center of the circular loop. This point is actually lying on the axis of the circular loop. Therefore, we cannot use the formula for the first formula of magnetic field that was for the center of the circular loop. Instead, we have to use the second formula. So we'll make use of the second formula. Now students, here for both the loops, there will be certain direction of the field, and we have to find the net field which will be resultant of both the loops. So we have to find the direction of B1 as well as B2, and then we have to make use of vector laws of addition to find out the resultant. The expression which we will be using, that is for the point lying on the axis of the circular loop. Now students, here the diagram is in 2 dimension. I need to recognize what is the direction of current as I'm seeing while standing at point O. Students, I'm going to assume that this end is the top end of this loop and this end is the front end of the loop. So if I apply the right hand palm rule to find out the direction of field, for the loop 1, if I curl the fingers of my right hand so that my fingers are turned in the direction of current, then thumb will be pointing in the direction of magnetic field. So here I am assuming that this is the end, this portion of the loop is at the top. So when I curl the fingers of my right hand, then the direction of field will turn out to be towards the left hand side. So at point O, the direction of field due to this first loop will be in this direction. I call this field as B1. Similarly, I'm considering this portion to be the top portion here, and while I see from point O, the fingers of my hand will turn in the anti-clockwise direction and my thumb will point in the upward direction. So this turns out to be the direction of magnetic field due to the second loop. Now, these two are perpendicular to each other, and we know for perpendicular vectors, the resultant is given by a square plus b square square root. And we'll make use of this formula. Now, just look at the situation. The distance of point O is equal to x from both the loops. Now, both the loops are given to be having equal amount of current. The current is same, distance is same, medium is also obviously same. Therefore, the value of B1 and B2 by all means is going to be equal. And when these two fields are equal, that means to say I will have B1 equal to B2, and the net value of B will be equal to, I assume this to be B, and that B will be, when I substitute here for the net field, that is a square plus b square square root, this will turn out to be under root 2 times b. So all that I need to do now is to find out simply the value of b. What is the value of b? For that, we'll simply use that formula that we have already learned for a point lying on the axis of the circular loop. This formula we will apply. We assume here the radius of the circular loop is a, and we substitute this equation here. So I simply multiply this with under root 2, and I get to know what is the net field. Students, because this field is a vector quantity, I will also have to find out the direction. And students, we know this point. Whenever two vectors are perpendicular and their values are equal, the resultant will be exactly in the middle. So I can make use of this fact. I just complete this parallelogram. So this is going to be the net value of field. This is B net. Right, and it will be exactly making an angle of 45 degree with both of them, because both the vectors are given to be equal in magnitude. So the direction of the field will be at 90 degrees. So it will be here. So how do you tell this direction? So you can tell it, if I assume this to be the x-axis, so I can tell that it will be making an angle of 45 degrees with negative x-axis, or I can say it will be making an angle of 45 degrees with both the fields. So this is how I can show it diagrammatically, and I can write it down in words also. So with this, students, we are done with the numerical questions. Some more questions you will find in the assignment. Thank you very much.